Speaker. I call the Honourable Tau Hinarei. Tēnā koe, Mr Hinarei.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. Mea tutai anei taku mihi ki a koutou katoa, i o ko rangatira, i o ko kaumata, i o ko kuia, no te hau kāinga, no Ngati Whatua, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Mr Speaker, I've been told to keep my comments brief because we are running out of time. Not that an extra 160 years won't go amiss. Mr Speaker, can I say to Ngati Whatua, thank you for putting up with my family, or putting my family up in your rohe for the last 30 years. Thank you for allowing me to swim at Parakai. Thank you for allowing me to fish your waters. I won't tell you where, but suffice to say it was in Ngati Whatua territory. It really is funny when you look at history and you look at, and as my colleague Nanaia Mahuta said, about the changing face of Auckland. One constant is Ngati Whatua. One thing that remains the same is Ngati Whatua. Whether it is through fee simple ownership of land, or whether it is our looking at Ngati Whatua and I suppose taking our hats off every time we go through the area of Ngati Whatua. I love history. And one of the things that bugs me about New Zealand is that we haven't embraced our history. We haven't, I mean, Māoris do. They love to sit around and talk about who did what to who, whether it's good or whether it's bad. But the nation doesn't spend time dealing with its history. And one of the sad things in Ngati Whatua is, I suppose, the nation's forgetfulness about the people that perished in a bus accident when the Queen was out here in the 1960s. And as a kid, I read the story, and I was fascinated that these people were just up the road. They lived up the road from me. And who else knows that in New Zealand other than Ngati Whatua and students of New Zealand history? It hasn't been emblazoned on our psyche, and it should, because we should never forget, you know, the whole story behind where those people were travelling to and where they were coming from. It was actually Waitangi. And so it creates, that's the stories, those are the stories that create our history. And our history to be proud of, the prowess. And like my colleague Reynolds says, where did the Māori seats come from? I used to be a Māori seat holder until they decided they wanted somebody else. I won't hold that against them. You know, they were from Ngati Whatua, but I won't hold that against you fellas. You know, in the last settlement speech, I mentioned the horrific cartoons that we saw last week from the Marlborough Express and the Christchurch Press. 7 days ago, there was an interview on the TV3 with my colleague Hekia Parata. Now you can have your views on the National Party, the National Party and the Labour Party and whoever else, the Green Party. But one of the questions was asked of her, how Māori are you, by the interviewer. I find that the most insulting, most verging on racist question I've ever heard a reporter ask of someone, not just an MP, but of someone in this country. Can you imagine a bill like this and a question being raised in the bill, how Māori are Ngati Whatua? How Māori are Ngāpuhi? How Māori are you? How Māori are you? It beggars belief, Mr. Speaker, that when we are dealing with this sort of bill, and let me be blunt, we get off lightly. The Crown gets off lightly for what they did. When Ngati Whatua jumped up doing the haka, we pulled their land out. And we're apologising for that? With a few morsels, with a few pieces of silver? It's what we do, and we accept that that's what we have to do. But let no one forget, we're not the enemy. Well, actually, Ngati Whatua is not the enemy. They allowed New Zealanders to live in their area. And I know that over time, the other side got quite big in numbers, and things didn't turn out the way Paora Tuhaere and Tupuna had thought. But their wish was to invite these people in, these newcomers. And we are giving these people a pittance, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not arguing the quantum, Minister.
Good.
But I want to leave you with this question. What have Māori done to deserve cartoons like that? What have Māori done to deserve being asked, how Māori are you? Are you a real Māori? What the hell does that mean? In this day and age, I do laud the fact that New Zealand is a leader in its treatment of Indigenous people. But hell, we've got a long way to go. And I'm glad that I work in an environment where we all work daily to move closer to reconciliation, to true reconciliation. So I doff my cap to Ngati Whatua and thank them once again for allowing me to live in their area. Kia ora.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the honourable member